Live.
Oilerslive podcast. Oilerslive podcast.
Now, get ready to talk hockey. Streaming from the Oilers Live studio. Subscribe or follow today.
Hey everyone, it's Michael here from Oilers Live, following another Oilers win tonight over those crazy Ducks that we love to hate. We love to hate the Ducks, and there they are. We're now we beat them 2-1 tonight, and got everything we ever dreamed we wanted from this game. Just about 2 seasons too late, in my mind. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show.
How's it going, Michael?
Good. And welcome to everybody that's listening on a number of different platforms that we have, Twitter, YouTube. You might be on YouTube, Twitch, you name it, we're there, Facebook. I also have the call-in tonight. If anybody wants to call in at any time, 587-907-5483. That's 587-907-LIVE. That you can call in on. Let's start. Mike, your thoughts on the game tonight?
Well, we saw obviously some new line combinations. Gagne, Cassian, and Nuge put together. I was actually a little bit surprised by that, but I that line was good. The guys that can't stand each other or so we thought, playing well together as a group. Gagne already has done what we had out of Spooner. He's tied him, in what is this, his third or fourth game as an Oiler?
Yep.
Spooner had half a season, just about,
He's already had as many goals as Strome had. So there you go.
Well, I think Spooner had 2 in his Oiler time. So the trade's worked out. Way to go, Keith.
Yeah, well, I did say it was and it was a low bar, but it's the smartest trade we've made in a long time.
Yeah. I don't think Gagne deserved to be in the minors all season. I think Vancouver just did that because they wanted to play their younger guys. I think Sam deserved to, still be an everyday NHLer. So he's still got hands.
Yeah. He's looked. He hasn't seemed to have lost a step. He was near a point a game in the AHL playing for the Marlies. Gagne's a talent. I mean, you can't. Frankly, you can't have an 8-point night and not be a bit of a talent. He's still only 29, right? It's, we think of him as being as an old guy, and he is on this team, right? But he's 29 years old. I know when he came back to the team, he talked about that a little bit. He said, "Look, guys, I'm not old yet. I mean, give me a little bit of a break." Personally, I'd love to be 29 still, but yeah,
you and me both.
That's passed a little bit. All right. Anything about the game tonight that struck you? I mean, obviously, and we're going to get into it. I know you're dying to. You've got a bit of a rant, I think, about the McDavid suspension. But I guess what I want to talk about a little bit is, a couple games ago, McDavid's out with the flu. I thought, as I said, I thought we played a pretty good game. Once the team kind of learned that they could play without him, I thought that it went well for him. Middle of, what was it, the second period there? Or no, it was the first period. Burke gets on and says Oilers need somebody to run the second line with high hockey IQ, clearly eliminating Draisaitl from that equation. I think the 2 games that McDavid's been out and the game that he was in, right? I think we could safely say that Draisaitl is capable of running his own line. I think he's just needed the little push, right? Somebody to kind of, and having McDavid out has given him that. Your thoughts?
He's been on fire the last little while. I don't think there's any denying that, and I think it's just carried over. He's got his confidence. He's pushing. I foresee him maybe hitting that 50 goal plateau. I think that's within his reach. And how amazing would that be for Edmonton to have a 50 goal scorer? It's been a long time.
Yeah, he's on his way. To 50. I think he'll make it, and McDavid still has a legit shot of making it as well. It's hard to believe the team is where they're at, with only with 2 guys that could potentially hit that 50 goal plateau. I'd say it's impressive. It's not. We need a better record at this point, but it's still. I think that it's nice. I think what the other thing that we want to talk about the game that strikes me, and I mentioned this a couple days ago when we went on with the live stream, was that this is it was February of 2018, the last time that we had our defense all together. And I don't think that's any big surprise that we're doing better. I'm actually really happy with the way Sekera has come back this time. I think he's been solid, but they've also not rushed him to play top D minutes yet. And he's looked good. He's such a smart player. Like, he gets the just the little stick movements when he's fighting for pucks in the corner. Nice little passes. He had that, Oilers were under pressure. He had that out to Lucic in front of the net today's game. Something has to be said, and I've said this, that I play a ton of hockey, so I'm always in dressing rooms, and in dressing rooms, you're always talking hockey, and everybody always asks me, knowing about the podcast, what's going on with the Oilers? And one of the things I always go to is, well, you take out the top 2 defensemen from anybody's team, and you're going to struggle to win games. Now, there's a lot more to this team than just the top 2D, but it's no surprise to me that Koskinen looks better when he's got defensemen that are playing the type of minutes they should be playing. It's not that Nurse is not a capable defenseman. He's great. I love Nurse, but should he be playing top line D minutes? Probably not, right? And when you ask a guy to do a little bit too much, you get different results than what you'd expect. So, I think it's great. Sekera's back. He's allowing players, the defensemen, to play the minutes that they should be playing. Even, I'll bite my tongue after this, even Benning looked half decent. I see you shaking your head. I'm always critical of Benning, but he's even looked a little bit better as of late. I'm with you though, Mike. I'd probably still rather move him on. So any thoughts on that? I mean, what's the cause? I'd say the last, even before Sekera, the last probably 6 or 7 games, the Oilers have looked really good. What do you think they're doing differently?
Sekera tonight, that was his best game back. He was efficient. There was that one play, I think it was in the first period when puck was on the wall and it could have been dangerous, and he went in and kind of separated everybody, got the puck out. My game notes I had early in the first, Clefbaum kind of had a little muffin there. He's trying to get it over to Larson, and he didn't really get anything on it. I'm not sure if it was him so much or the ice being still wet from the Zamboni, but it luckily that didn't end up in the back of the net. But Benning opened the door for Anaheim after we were up 2-0. There was kind of a shoot in, and he went to play it on the wall, and it went from Nick Ritchie right to Rowney to the back of the net. Nothing Mikko could do. Mikko had a hell of a game tonight. I thought he was really strong.
Yeah, he made a couple of nice
good.
flourishes with the glove. There's no doubt. Yeah, and you can't, you can't certainly get upset with a goaltender that only lets in one. Thoughts on the late interference call? You think that's? I actually, to be fair, if they had called that against the Oilers, I'd be livid. if we had scored like that. I kind of think that Nuge is pushing him into the net, but you know what? We certainly deserve one. Your thoughts on that? Right call, wrong call? I mean, it was 50-50, I think, in my mind. But
I think a little bit of that starts with Mikko. I think had two kind of shots that he had to try to get a rebound, swallowed up, and it didn't happen. And then I think it was Perry shot it in the net. I don't feel any sympathy for Corey Perry. I'm sorry, that's fucking redemption for the playoffs in my eyes. Whether it got away or not, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the ref thought it was blatant goalie interference on the play. So Toronto, if they overturn that, combined with the McDavid suspension, they're going to look like they're piling on Edmonton. That's probably not how you should go about doing your job, but I think a little bit of that played into this, honestly.
So I did not hear the. Of course, I was watching on Sportsnet, but when I was watching the post-game stream on Twitter, when you get Hitchcock's comments and some of the players' comments, they also show some of the clips from the game. Now, just they cut it off right at the end, but they've got the radio, they've got Stauffer, and they've got Jack Michaels. That's the audio they're using when they show their clips. Right. Stauffer is yelling, "That should have been 2," and then they cut it off. You think he's talking about the Perry hit on Nurse at the end of the game?
Well, I listened to the kind of show with the panel on CBC.
Yeah.
And Kelly Rudy and even Kyprios was pretty adamant that that's almost suspendable.
Oh, I'm losing you a little bit there.
Not just 2 minutes.
We're having a little bit of audio difficulty there, Mike. All right, let's try this again. I know you're still out there, Mike. We had a little bit of audio difficulty. So I'm gonna send you a note offline, just let you know that we're having a little bit of difficulty.
Gave Nurse a forearm shiver.
So for those of you listening, I'm sure
they were calling that supplemental discipline.
Are you still? Can you hear me? I think we might have missed just about everything you just said there, Mike. Can you hear me? No. All right, let's dial you back in. All right, so Mike, I'm going to dial you back in. Just hold on. For those of you listening, hold on 1 second. We just have
I can hear you. Okay.
Oh, you can hear me now? All right. I'm sure you said something absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I got you.
But nobody else heard it. Maybe we should get you to record, whatever it is you're saying. All right, let's move on. I think I know what you were talking about, which is, you obviously there probably should be supplementary discipline on that Perry hit on Nurse. I think we all agree on that. Let's chat now. I know, Mike, you've been talking a bit about it all day today. I've been tweeting about it since the hit, and a lot of garbage going on with NHL player safety. I think I've got my own feelings. I want to hear you've got something to say. Let's hear. I'm going to put myself on mute, and Mike, if you, I'm just going to actually make sure that I've got you on Twitter. I'll say I'll get a message ready just in case I lose you, so that you don't go too far into this. If I lose you on the audio, then maybe I can just send you a quick message and let you know. But what do you have to say about 2 games, Connor McDavid? Here's your floor. The floor is all yours. I'm going on mute. Let's hear what you have to say.
All right. Well, as a kid, like I grew up in northern Alberta most of my minor hockey days, and then my bantam years I spent about half an hour from Viking, Alberta, home of the Sutters. We were kind of raised to take hits, give hits. We weren't raised to be dirty and cheap shot artists by any means. Our coach, if somebody got hip checked and did a somersault, would kind of slap you on the back, knock the wind back into you, and send you back on your next shift. And, even if you went airborne and were in rough shape, get back out there. That's kind of the way it was. I think since I played my minor hockey days, things have changed. We've learned more about, concussions and brain injuries. And, but I also think, with some of this, we're taking things a little too far. Anybody that plays a contact sport, whether it's, hockey, football, rugby, whatever it is, you assume some risk when you sign up to play. And, I guess I got to start by saying, as a lifelong Edmonton Oilers fan and and a fan of the game of hockey in general, I'm appalled at the NHL and its, officiating, the way that things, go unchecked, and player safety. For the record, I've got no issues with trying to protect players and their brains. I think that's actually important. In saying that, though, I'm furious. I've got issues with trying to, I'm furious and enraged with the decision to suspend, the up and coming face of the NHL. For me to see a referee on the ice make the decision to give Connor a 2-minute minor for what was signaled and called a hit to the head. He did this motion. That means a hit to the head on the ice. So he saw it. He knew what it was. So you signal that on the ice, but you've got a huge discrepancy between the officiating that's done in real time and review by player safety. If we're going to crucify McJesus for stepping out of bounds, as a first-time offender, the league better start taking, hits from behind serious as well. We've seen these hits, where a guy gets cross-checked in the back or just ran, boarded from behind, and it goes, it goes without anybody getting penalized. We as Oiler fans have witnessed our share of liberties being taken on our captain without any repercussions at all. We can all do a quick search, on the internet and find plenty of evidence of that. I remember a game against the Ducks where McDavid is nailed from behind and driven face first into the boards, with the ref standing about 10 feet away looking at the play, and he didn't even call boarding on the play. No duck got called, onto the carpet from player safety. I think it's a disgrace and an absolute fucking, and I'm sick as a fan of it. Other teams have been allowed to run roughshod on Connor, and the league doesn't give a shit. It's just business as usual. Carry on. Play on. If you're going to punish McDavid for this hit, then clean up the rest of the fucking bullshit that goes on around the league. and then I'll calm down. Drew Doughty got away with a blatant elbow to McDavid's face and not even a fucking 2-minute minor. No call from the league. Player safety? My ass. It's only player safety when it's convenient. And that is my rant.
Mike, I can't agree more. I mean, this is and this is kind of what I've been going on for the last day or so. Is we've had this thing where it's I look at this suspension, right? And the one thing, I guess, okay, if you want to do headshots as 2 games, fine, right? If that's the standard, I think you can have a standard, but you got to be able to move from that standard a little bit. And there's now I've seen a number of different clip compilations of McDavid being hooked, hit, all of these things uncalled, refs watching. We saw Remenda get absolutely livid on TV the other night to say that's not going to happen if they just don't ignore the call that happens. The one thing that's really sort of irking me right now, and I did a tweet about it right before we went on live today, is there is clearly it seems to me, and maybe it's not that clear, but it seems to me there is a Eastern hockey media agenda at play here. If you go and you listen to the TSN discussion, the TSN panel talk about it, they were talking about this is great. This is great for the league. There's some consistency. There's consistency finally, and they're showing that they're not favoring the Stars. And you know what? That's garbage, because look, how can you call anything like that consistency when you've got Gudas who blatantly chops a guy and a league superstar on the head for a second infraction? And you remember his first chop on the head where he came down on how can you compare those two in a game's perspective? You've got a guy that's on his second infraction with a blatant chop to the head, like intent to injure, and you give him the same amount of games as Connor McDavid, who is a class act in this league, isn't out there gooning people game in, game out. I'd be very surprised if we ever see another Connor McDavid suspension. Kev Rock says the Melkin face chop. 1 game, single game for this. And you know what? That swing of the stick, that is, and I said this before, willful disregard for player safety. He might not have meant to hit anybody, but that's willful disregard. He throws his stick around on on the ice surface. What do you expect's going to happen, right? He's lucky somebody didn't lose their eye. And that's a single game, right?
Right.
And you're gonna spout this bullshit like these hockey guys, these so-called hockey guys are gonna spout this bullshit about there being consistency within the NHL player safety. It's garbage, right? Like there hasn't been consistency for a long time. And you know what? Maybe Connor deserves 2 games. I don't even want to comment on that. Right? I think it was maybe a game. Yeah, it's a headshot. Whatever. And argue all you want. It's a game, maybe it's 2 games, but consistency is getting the amount right, related to everybody else.
The issue I take, Mike, too, is we're picking and choosing what's suspendable and what isn't. Like, you look at the last game against the Islanders, not the one in Edmonton, but the one in New York, and that incident with Nurse and Lee.
Yeah.
Lee doesn't get a phone call. He doesn't get a 5-minute major for an intentional high stick. Like, we're not talking accidental high stick there.
And you know what? The league cannot be accused of favoring the superstars when you watch what happens to Connor McDavid night in and night out. And the most telling thing to me, right? And I know he played with McDavid, but they interviewed Patty Maroon, and he said, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna hook and hold this guy."
You have to.
Yeah, he said that. A guy flat out says that, and you know what? I mean, it just is driving me nuts. And Button's on TSN right now. He's, his latest thing is there was no rush to judgment on the league's suspension of McDavid, right? Because McDavid said today, he said it felt like they already made their decision, and they did. You know why they did? Because all of the media were already saying it was 2 games. Button was 5 minutes after the hit happened. Button was on TSN saying that's 2 games. Right?
Yep.
5 minutes after. Do you know that I looked. I wanted to make sure. I looked. I didn't see a Button thing on Gudis. Button didn't comment on Gudis. I didn't see another Button one on Malkin. You think he, it's garbage. They were out for blood as soon as it was Connor McDavid and it was the Oilers and the Western Conference team, right? The other thing is it helps these media guys like get some relevance, right? Because they know we've got a lot of fans, right? They know we've got good fans and passionate fans. So who else are they going to chirp on? Like Steve Simmons or whatever the hell his name is. He's not relevant until they go after the Oilers, right? And then they know, we're going to stir up the hornet's nest. It's garbage. And, Chimo Joe says Paris is a former Duck. But I don't, I'm drives me nuts. You know what they should do, speaking of that? Because at Chimo Joe says Paris is a former Duck. That's right. How is he going to he played there when Perry was there, didn't he?
Yeah, he's been there. Yeah.
So is he going to call a hearing? Is he going to call a hearing on his best buddy? Sure, him and Perry still text with each other. Yeah, honestly, right? Like, or does he step aside for this one?
We don't deem that bad enough.
No. Now you got me going.
Well, you're going to look at everything now, aren't you? I mean, I know I am.
Yeah, well, you kind of have to, right? And it's garbage. And I just, my feeling on this though is it could be worth 2 games, but the fact is let the league call what's right, and then actually have some consistency against judgment against everybody, right? If Gudis is a repeat offender, he's 4 games for that willful hit chop on the head of Kucherov. Kucherov, who is Hart Trophy candidate. Likely, unfortunately for McDavid this year, but likely going to be the Art Ross winner, right? Of course, he's got a hell of a team behind him, but that's consistency, right? If you're going to call that against that, if in my mind if you give Gudis 2 games for that, you give McDavid a fine. That's the way I look at it. You give Malkin a game for that stick swing, which was brutal in my mind. And I like Malkin, don't get me wrong. But that was willful disregard for player safety in my mind. If you're only giving him a game, then you give McDavid a fine. Now, is a hit to the head worth 2 games? Yeah, it might be. But that's not the standard that you've just suspended everybody else on in a matter of, a week? Right? That's what pisses me off, and the fact that it just seems like there was a certain agenda put out by hockey media this go around. All right, I know it was your rant. I got in there. I was a little bit pissed off. I've been pissed off for a little bit. Where do you go from here, right?
I got one more thing on that, Mike.
All right. Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, we're playing a game in Staples Center. Like, I question what the fuck the reason was for implementing a second referee. Because to me, when we were sold that, we're going to put a second ref out, and that's going to clean up stuff that happens behind the play. I think we all remember the play where Drew Doughty elbows Connor in the face. No call on the ice and no call from the league. There should have been a fine there at least.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it should have been. You bring up something good, right? I mean, this is something that that was supposed to. The reality is, though, is that we have seen time and again this year the refs looking directly at the play as it's happening. That hit from behind, to me, is probably one of the biggest examples, because you no matter how you look at it, the ref is staring right at McDavid as his head goes into the boards. And there's not even 2 minutes on that.
No.
And
this is, Mike. This is the part that kind of infuriates me. Is the other day when McDavid hit Letty. I don't think he was intentionally trying to take his head off and decapitate him and all this kind of bullshit that you see on Twitter, but it happened. Okay, they give him 2 games for that. But the player safety superseded that official because it wasn't 5 in a game on the ice. It was a minor infraction. They decide it's worthy of a suspension. Okay, so if you're going to do that there, then that play where McDavid ran into the boards from behind, referee didn't even put his arm up. Why the hell doesn't player safety supersede and fine them? They don't think that's a dangerous play as well? Like, to me, hits from behind are more dangerous than hits from the front. Because you most of the time you're at a standstill, and then your brain gets rocked. You get rocked into the boards, and your brain's doing all kinds of shuffling. Like, why don't they take hits from behind seriously?
So
they don't.
And you're absolutely right. Like, they, and this is what's driving me nuts right now. Is every time, if you go back, go on TSN, go on Sportsnet, go on all of the sports, Canadian sports, and all these guys are talking about consistency, right? That's what this McDavid suspension is all about, is consistency. Are you kidding me? If anything, it shows the lack of consistency. And there are a number of Oilers fans out there that agree that 2 games is probably the right suspension. I'm not one of them. I think a game, actually. Maybe a game or maybe a fine. And I say a fine only based on recent history. But if you take out recent history, I'm all right with a game suspension for a hit to the head. It's hard to tell intent, right? McDavid could have been pissed off because of the play right before. But my question to you is like, how is this anything resembling consistency in the league, right? There's a ton of Oilers fans that, that I've seen on Twitter and elsewhere agree that it's a suspendable offense, whether you agree or not, right? But that's not what Oilers fans are getting pissed off about, right? They're pissed off because there's a double standard here. People are saying, well, you call them for 2 games so that you're showing you're not favoriting, or there's no favoritism with your superstars. That's been clear for every Oilers fan that's ever watched a game of hockey, right? There's no favoritism for Connor McDavid. No. In fact, it goes absolutely the other way. And my hat's off to this guy, because every chance that he's had, he has not gone off on the refereeing. And he sure as hell could. He's earned the right, but he is not. And you know what? I said today I won't fault him if he does, but he's a class act, right? This is exactly the kind of guy that you want representing your league. Stauffer keeps saying, the NBA is kicking our ass in the U.S. because they're protecting players like the Connor McDavids of the NBA, right? We don't do shit for Connor McDavid. NHL is doing shit for Connor McDavid. And I would tell you that the only fans that truly care about his superstar caliber are Oilers fans. And you know what? He sells tickets. He sells tickets in every building. I know people go to watch Connor McDavid, and why wouldn't you? He's the most exciting player to watch right now. There's certainly some type of jealousy out there, and this just serves to prove it, right? This is beyond, to me. There's no favoritism here, guys. Eastern media's got to get that out of their head. And most of them, honestly, aren't up late enough to watch these games anyway, right? You ask probably half of them, what's his name, Koulianos or whatever on Sirius XM. He's probably never been up past 9 p.m., right? Like garbage, absolute garbage. Anyway. All right.
Yeah, I'll add to that just a little bit, Mike. 2 years ago, the talk was, okay, we're going to clean up obstruction. That was going to be the MO. Kessler tonight, gets a hooking call on Draisaitl. That was the first time I think I've seen a hooking call in an Oiler game in weeks. I mean, it's back to the days almost of the 70s Flyers of hooking and holding and clutching and grabbing to hang on to McDavid, because if you don't have a chance. And for the officiating to let all the shenanigans and bullshit, and I totally disagree with Ryan Rishaug when he says that Connor, gains his own advantage by doing things. Bullshit. He's just trying to fight off all the people that are, mugging and holding him. And you have to do it because you don't have a chance otherwise. His speed he's the most explosive player we've ever seen in the NHL. People can talk about Pavel Bure. I've seen Pavel Bure play live. I'm sorry. Connor McDavid is next level speed. And you have to do it to nullify it. And when the league allows that, they take away from showcasing the amazing talent that he is.
I'm on mute. I'm saying saying the smartest stuff on mute. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. There is no, and I'll go back to Patty Maroon's comments there. There is absolutely no way to stop Connor McDavid on a nightly basis without some hooking and holding, right? Like, it's just, it's just not possible. He makes NHL defensemen look like junior defensemen on a regular basis. And, if I was out there playing against him on defense, I'd be doing the same thing. And knowing what I know, right? Like, knowing that they're only going to call 1 out of every 4 or 5 hooks. Yeah, you bet your ass I'm going out there and hooking them every single time, right? Because I'll probably save 3 or 4 goals. And maybe, odds are I won't get a penalty, but just maybe, right? The fact that, that guy south of us in Calgary gets, draws as many calls as he does, makes me wonder who's out drinking with the refs every night, because
right.
And clearly they're drinking pregame some of the stuff that they're calling or not calling, for that matter. All right, let's move on, because you know what, we could definitely go on about this. We could probably do 2 episodes on this. Lots has been made of this. Next game's at the Predators. Mike, is there, this team, obviously, they can't publicly say they're not in the hunt anymore. What's your honest opinion? If you want, I'll say it first, because whether it's popular or not, we're not getting a playoff spot this year. It would be an absolute miracle. But in my mind, your thought, you think we got it in us? The reason I don't think we can do it is I think while we're playing better, we still don't have the horses to get this done, and we've got too many people to go beyond. But they're on the panel after the game tonight, and they're still talking like the Oilers are in this thing. Your thoughts on that? It's not my personal opinion that they are, but they're 7. What are they? 7 points back, right now.
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
21 games remaining.
Tonight was a 4-point game, but is Anaheim going to make it too? I don't think so. So a win was important to kind of keep that flicker of hope alive. I don't think you ever want to take the stake and jab it through your own team's heart, but yeah, I don't know. The 90s Oilers, if they were, back this far at this point in the season, I would say they have a legitimate shot because those guys worked hard every single game. I've liked the way we've been playing lately. I won't deny that, but to squeak in the back door to, face, one of the upper echelon teams in the Western Conference, I don't think we're going to have 2006 kind of success because let's face it, we don't have a Chris Pronger, So yeah, I think come Monday you try to sell what you can, and if that means that you can only, the only person that people want to buy is Alex Chase based on some potential of having some success, I think you probably visit that. I mean, if it's a deep pick, then it's probably not worth it. But I would say if you could recoup that third round pick that you gave up in the Petrovic Weidman swap there, that would probably be worth it.
Yeah. Petrovic is doing wonders for this team right now. Yeah. The trades just don't get any better as they age either. Here's a question I have for you, because this kind of has been mulling through my mind. Because I love this team, and nothing I would love more than for some miracle run and us to make the playoffs. And you know what? In the deep reaches of my heart, I hope that the Oilers are still in it. But my brain tells me the season, as far as playoffs are concerned, is more or less over. 1% chance. And as you quoted, the other day, so you're saying there's a chance, right? That's where we're at. But what I'm asking myself now, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, what's success for this team now at the end of this, the second or last, I guess, quarter of this season? There's 21 games left. Do you, as a fan, you want to see them put together a nice win streak and make a good run at it, and of course decrease the odds of winning a draft pick, right? Like a high draft, winning the draft lottery, or are you happy with them, just sort of going by the wayside and finishing last in the league, and being frustrated every night as you watch? What's my take on it is, I just hate watching this team lose, right? And if we finish a point out of the playoffs, although that would be pretty damn frustrating, I think, if that's the way it happens, because we could have almost been there. But I'd be happy. I just want to see, and lots of people have even tweeted this out, I want to see the Oilers go down the stretch playing the best hockey that they can, getting some of these key players that stick with the team into next year into a winning mindset, maybe giving, Hitchcock or a would-be coach the desire to take this team on and move it to the next level, and see some growth out of some of the players, right? Like, hey, we never mentioned Curry, or you did actually, Curry scoring his first goal, right? He's 26 years old, but hey, great thing, right? What's your at Brayley Brook says take number one? Yeah, what's your thought on this? Like, down the stretch, what do you want to see from this team?
Yeah, I guess you touched on the Curry thing. I never did. He got his first, and Lucic hit a milestone, his 300th career assist. So good for that. Not much of an assist. He tried to bang home two whacks at it, had a kind of a loose puck, and then it went over to Curry, and he hammered it home. But yeah, I'd like to see them make a charge and sneak into the playoffs. That would be cool. But I mean, if we're going to finish 3 points out of a playoff spot, I don't know, a little further down in the standings and win another coin toss for for Hughes or.
Oh, that would just. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Can you imagine your friends that are fans of other teams if we win yet another draft lottery? Can you imagine? You think that the Eastern hockey media have an agenda now? Can you imagine? They will rewrite the draft lottery somehow so that the Oilers never get another first pick if that happens. Um, you know, and you know what? It's one or two this year. If we could get one or two on a draft pick, I think we'd be doing all right. Just want to point out that are you watching on the Twitter feed at
Yes.
Canadian is
Yeah.
is pointing out the nice set and cell block 99 there.
Yeah.
And
we got
if you are watching the Twitter feed, you'll also see that I gave you a lower third there. You've now got your own. You've been on the show so often now. I figured maybe I should announce who you are.
Yeah.
And although people, and for those listening, you can listen, by the way, which I said last time, on the Oilers.live website. We're on the Simple Radio app and just search for Oilers Live Radio. And we're streaming live on the internet, of course, not just video on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, etc., but you can listen in a number of different places if you're on the go. All right. So, by the way, while you were talking, I got the tweet out there that about Peros and NHL player safety. When I think about him being potentially, and I suspect they are, friends, him and Corey Perry, how do you remove him from the equation?
Maybe nobody's friends with Corey Perry.
There is that possibility too. Can you guys play Go for Soda like the old days? Did you play that? I know you've been streaming a fair bit on your. Have you been playing that?
That's his go-to song there, yeah. And Cell Block 99 is because he thought I was being held in a prison cell. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So here's the other thing. Now we're closing in on the trade deadline. You brought up Chiasson. Everybody wants to bring up Chiasson. Kassian has been playing great, I think, lately. He's been proving himself to be, capable. I think on a team full of good wingers, he probably wouldn't be a one or two first or second line guy. He'd be a capable third line guy. What do you think about Kassian? You think he's, he's up for up on the trade block? You think he's a possibility to be moved?
I think they'll consider that. Like, I think they'll take calls on that, but I don't think they're in a rush to part ways with them. I mean, Zach, yeah, I mean, for most of his tenure as an Oiler, he was deep in the lineup, but the guy can skate. He's got, decent hands. I've liked Zach as a penalty killer myself. I think he, how many breakaways does the guy get from just knocking pucks out almost on his own and heading the other way? I don't mind Zach. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to, because his salary, if he's a fourth line guy, is a lot, but he's done okay with Connor. So
yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking. Like, I think if you're going to keep Zach, the question is, are you going to keep Sam next year? And the way Sam's playing, I don't know why you wouldn't, but I think they go hand in hand because that kind of gives you kind of a reasonable first line. I don't know over the course of an 82 game season if Gagne can handle being a first line guy anymore. I'm not sure there. I'm not sure his conditioning and wheels are are there for that, but maybe they are.
Yeah, I I've let's stay on the Brayley says keep Cassian. I would as I said last show, I would pretty much trade anybody outside of the core if it meant that we could have a better salary cap position. I just don't feel in my mind that anybody is worth keeping. I shouldn't say it that way because they're worth. There's a lot of guys that are worth keeping, but I think they're all expendable at this point in terms of making sure that we're in a position to pick up some capable guys on the wing. But here's another thing, and you have to look at this team the last 6 or 7 games, right? And something that I've consistently said throughout the season is, a lot of these guys don't quite get, the I think people are hard on them because they're not, that we've got no secondary scoring. But the way I've looked at it is we've got what we desperately need on this team, and with Sekera back, we're getting a little bit of it. Well, there's two things we need. One is I think Sekera comes in and is a good veteran presence on this team, for one. I mean, we haven't talked about the Condors, by the way. Condors won 16 in a row tonight, which is amazing. And the reason I brought that up at the same time is, when they talked about having Sekera down in Bakersfield, they kept talking about how, like, his presence in the locker room, right? Like what this guy brings to a locker room. And I feel like he brings that to an Oilers locker room too, which the guys on the Oilers team are not that old, right? The core group of guys are a young bunch of guys, right? So Sekera brings that, veteran presence. But the other thing is, I think that there's a lot of guys on this team that don't get secondary scoring because they have nobody to feed them the puck, right? Night after night. And I've said this before is if you have guys like Draisaitl and McDavid running the puck up the ice, they can do it. They've got the talent that they don't need a puck moving defenseman to score points, right? They can do it on their own, Would they be better if they had a guy that could catch them on the fly? Damn rights they'd be better, right? But, a guy like Lucic is not the kind of guy that takes the puck from the zone and goes end to end, right? He needs to get the puck on the fly. He needs to get it when he's going out of the zone, right? He needs a defenseman that can catch him when he's moving, right? And get him in the right spots and open up space and do all of those things. Is that going to make him back to, the guy that we had 3 years ago and the guy that played in the league 4 years ago? I don't know that it will, but these guys outside of the top tier guys on this team, most of them aren't good enough to do it on their own. And you could probably say that about most NHL teams, that there are, a handful of forwards on those teams that need puck-moving defensemen to move it out. We talked, unfortunately, about the Flames last episode, and we'll talk about them again. They've got, 4 good puck-moving defensemen, and they are getting a ton of secondary scoring, right? The Sharks, right? They get, scoring all around. They've also got defensemen that, are leading the league right now. I think they've got something like 147 points or something among their defensemen. They got shut out tonight, by the way. So that's, I don't even remember what started this part of the conversation, but in my mind, everybody's expendable. We need to move some cap. We need some cap space, keep the core, and we should be really seriously looking at expanding on the D. There's no love lost, I think, with anybody on maybe moving Benning out and doing something there and getting some guys that, can move the puck a little bit better. Anyway, that's my thought. What's your thought on this? Because, you know what, I talk about this, having puck moving D all the time. Nobody agrees with me, or nobody says anything in agreement, right? And I don't know if they disagree with me or if, what's your thought on that, on my theory behind that?
Well, McDavid creates a lot of his own chances just by he's pretty good at stripping people from the puck from behind and going the other way. He creates it a lot that way. Um, yeah, him, Nugent, and Draisaitl can kind of create offense just by going on your Lucic topic there. Lucic needs to be inside the zone already, get the puck kind of on the left wing, and be wide and take his wrist shot. That's how he's going to score goals. I don't know what it is with him, but it's been better lately. He's been going to the net and creating some havoc, but you'd think a guy that big would play almost like an old Tim Kerr kind of style where he's in front of the net and just cleaning up all the trash. And for whatever reason, he's not really that guy. I don't really understand that, but I wish there was more of that in his game. The last two games, he's got assists by, just kind of simple plays. The game against the Islanders, he, just kind of steers the puck on the backhand towards the net, and then Clefbaum comes and cleans up the trash. Tonight, he takes 2 whacks inside the paint, and the one goes over to the other side, and Curry pots his first goal. Just simple hockey with Lucic. That's how he's going to be effective. Tonight he had a huge hit in the third period. He was chasing down a puck behind the Anaheim net. And
love those.
He hammered, I think it was Lindholm. But I don't know. I think they have to improve on Matt Benning. That's an area of weakness. You thought he was okay tonight. I thought he opened the door for Anaheim, and luckily the team held on to get the win. But he opened the door for him with that one play along the sideboards there. He almost redeemed himself. I think it was in the third period with a slap shot that just about found the net. But that play on the half wall there where he muffed that and it ended up in the back of the net. Immediately after that, Hitchcock left him out there. On that next shift, he stumbled kind of by the net there, and it almost led to the tying goal right away. It was not a good sequence for him at all.
Yeah, he we go back to, I call those 2 trades that Keith Gretzky has made the best trades in 3 years. When the bar is set really low, right? A good game for Benning, is the 7th defenseman for any other team, right? The only reason that I can see that he continues to get the minutes in games that he does is the fact he's a right shot. Frankly, there's got to be more to it. While I said I thought he had a decent game, I'm not sure that, he misses the puck on the boards there. That happens to any player, once in a while. I think I just think that's unfortunate, and the puck should have never got away and out to the front like it did. But yeah, one game though does not make me a fan. I would be more than happy to see him moved on. He provides none of those things that I talk about in us needing as a team, right? Let's move on though from Benning, because I could talk about him all night. I'm with you. If we could, if somebody wanted him in a trade, so be it. Good enough. At Fake Canadian, I was talking about Gags there, Gagne. And, his comment here on the Twitter feed, Periscope feed, is enough of looking in the rearview mirror. Who's next? Benoit Pouliot, Rob Klinkhammer. I'm not sure Klinkhammer's going to be in that same boat. But what's your thought on that? Do we need to... So if you're listening, still fake Canadian, which I love the Twitter handle, by the way. My feeling on it is we got Gags back for Spooner, which Spooner did nothing, right? So I think it's a good trade, no matter how I look at it, and I'd make that trade, 10 out of 10 times. It probably though, if you dial that trade back all the way to the Eberle trade, would I trade Eberle for Gagner? Probably not. Would I trade Strome for Gagner? Yeah, I might. But either way, I don't think we should bypass players that just because they used to play for the team. On the other hand, I kind of feel like he's been a good addition, and I think he's an NHL caliber player. Why not bring him back? I really don't feel like this had anything to do with his history with the franchise, other than you got a guy that is motivated to play with the team, right? Which I think is needed in times like these. That you need a good character guy, and he's a known commodity. But your thoughts on that, Mike?
I got no problems with Sam Gagner being here. And yeah, if I had to trade Sam for Strome, I would give that a serious look. I think Sam's got better hands. Strome's he was a streaky scorer. Sam's got a lot of versatility. He can play the center, he can play the wing. At times you've got him up on the first line. He's okay on the third line. He's kind of a responsible player. I've got no problems with Sam being here. I don't think he's the savior of the franchise by any means. We already have that. We don't need that. We just need competent players. I think he's one. I got no issues with Sam. As far as Back to the Future, that happens. Ryan Smith, left. He came back. I think he was still useful when he came back. Mike Comrie, same kind of thing. We never saw Mike Comrie fight before, but when he came back, I think it was like one of the first games he got into with Craig Conroy from Calgary. Yeah. Kind of endeared me to him more than any of the goals he ever scored.
See, there's a name that a name that I haven't heard in a long time. Yeah. It's when I think about Mike Comrie, the one thing actually I think less about Mike Comrie and more about his brother. And how unfortunate it is that he didn't turn out. He would have been a hell of a player, I think, in the NHL. Anyway, those are fair comments. And like I said, if I had to make that trade, I'd make it 10 out of 10 times Spooner for.
I want to touch on Fake Canadian's comment there. I don't see that as a nostalgia move. I see that as I'm just talking about Gagner for Spooner. I'm talking that as a move out of necessity and a move that could be made and was made. It's an upgrade on Ryan Spooner. It's already proven to be. Ryan Spooner might do a lot of things in Vancouver, but he didn't do jack shit in Edmonton.
Yeah, no, he was awful. He was awful. In fact, he didn't even really. He wasn't a standout in Bakersfield either. He did. When I say standout, he played well there. There were some comments. A few games back where they were saying he wasn't doing anything in Bakersfield. In fact, he was doing well in Bakersfield, but he wasn't a standout. He certainly wasn't moving up to the top line there. And, he may do fine in Vancouver. All the best to him. Let's go back. Fake Canadians very well engaged tonight, which is great. Thanks for tuning in. He brings up Tampa as the prototype of a progressive franchise, and then also the need for the Oilers to have a de facto GM. I completely 100% agree with both of those comments. Tampa is really sort of the team that everybody needs to model themselves after. In fact, the teams that have done well, you look at in the past, it was Detroit, and who learned in Detroit, Stevie Y, and he brings that model to Tampa. And there's no surprise that Tampa continues to put a great team together year after year. How much hope, and Fake Canadian also goes on to say Chia did build a damn good farm team. So he's right about that. Chiarelli was part of that. But how much hope does it give you that Bakersfield has won 16 in a row? Do you think that this team can turn a corner in a shorter period of time than everybody's giving them credit for? Because in the past month we've heard everything from, this team is 4 years away from being a quality team. We're in a new rebuild, et cetera, et cetera. We're never going to get out of the cap crunch. How much does Bakersfield give you any more hope? I'll tell you it does for me. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the Bakersfield success so far, and let's just put it in perspective, it's regular season success. They need to do some damage in the playoffs and go on a good run there, and then once you start doing that consistently, then you've got a feeder system. But there's definitely, seeds planted in the ground there that hopefully are going to return some fruit eventually for the big club. In saying that, I think from a realistic standpoint, the parent organization of the Bakersfield Condors is probably 2 years away from getting to where they need or where they want to be. I think if you get sort of a Miracle Max GM, it could be sooner. But I think realistically, it's probably a 2 year, to get back to where you want to be, going, beyond just clawing your way into the playoffs, but being able to contend. The reason why I don't think it's 4 years away is because the things that are important to having sustained success. The heart of your organization is Connor McDavid. That gives you a head start. Leon Draisaitl is, he's gonna, I think, easily be a 40-goal scorer this year, and I think it's within his grasp to be a 50-goal scorer. I won't be disappointed if he doesn't get there, but I'll be ecstatic if he does. But I think he has a legitimate chance at it. So you've got that. You've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who is a really good two-way player. Probably should be a Selke candidate, in my opinion. And on the back end, Clefbaum and Nurse, to me, are two guys that should be building blocks going forward. I look at Clefbaum and I look at the San Jose Sharks, and I put Burns and Carlson and Mr. Pickle Vlasic ahead of Clef, but I don't think Clefbaum's too far behind Vlasic. And Nurse is a different element that a lot of teams probably wish they had. He's not the greatest puck-moving defenseman, but he can skate like the wind. He can play a ton of minutes without really getting tired. The guy is strong and can play a nasty game, and I think that's important to get to the playoffs. He doesn't slouch himself either, so you've got some pieces there. You just need to, add a little bit around them to propel this thing forward. So you need to part with some contracts to be able to bring in some other people that can help.
Yeah, absolutely. The goal number one, right, is absolutely getting some cap space and moving that way. Or the Clefbaum comment, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. There's Fake Canadian, and not sure your name, but I would say most of your comments have been great. But I would also argue Clefbaum's likely a. He might not be a first liner on some teams, first line deep pair, but he would be if he was up for trade. There would be a lineup of teams willing to grab him, no doubt. Glenn Moss says, set down the middle with McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nuge. We need good, cheap wingers. No doubt. We've been talking about that. And I said the comment yesterday. I think if you have those three as your center depth, I'd argue that's the best center depth in the league right there. Hitchcock finally, and maybe it's on Draisaitl, but it seems like Hitchcock kind of understands that you need to have those guys separated. I was quite happy. People kept talking about wanting to see Nuge and Draisaitl play together. I was happy to see them not on the same line. I think it's we saw this last year when we went on a run with McDavid and Draisaitl both manning their own lines. And it was right near Christmas last season. And then after the break, they put McDavid back. This was McClellan. Put them back together on the same line, and I gotta quit looking at the at the Twitter comments while I'm talking here. But McClellan put them back on the same line, and lo and behold, teams threw out their best players against our number one line and ran roughshod on us against every other line. You have to have in this league at least two lines that are strong, and I will give Hitch the benefit of the doubt on this one. I just don't feel like until recently that Draisaitl has come out and proven it, right? On the few times that he's given Draisaitl the choice. Now that, though, he didn't have any choice but to give Draisaitl a chance on his own line, he sees that he's capable. I think there's a lot of fans out there that have had that belief in Draisaitl that he's been capable. I've had it since the playoffs, since the Oilers win the playoffs. I mean, he was a beast on his own in the playoffs. There were a couple games where I felt McDavid was. I felt sorry. I'm still reading the. How did we get into? How do we get into politics conversation on my Twitter feed? All of people kind here. Knows that Draisaitl is capable of running his own line. I gotta quit. I gotta quit reading the. I'm losing my train of thought here. All right, so we talk about that. I still though, like what. What's the benefit of this team? I'm struggling with this. This is why I want to go back to this. What's the benefit of this team winning down the stretch versus losing down the stretch and taking home another draft lottery win? Like, what would you prefer?
Well, I guess the benefit of them winning games down the stretch is it Daryl Cates probably sells a little bit more alcohol and concession stuff, and people go to games and they have a reason to sort of watch. I don't think people are all that inspired to go to games when, they just lackluster effort and, loss after loss. I think people want to be entertained, but in the same token, I mean, you want a higher draft pick, so you're better equipped to go next year. It shouldn't have to be like this now, but this is where we are.
Is there anything to the stench of losing, though?
Yeah, I think that can. You want to talk about breeding, the right culture instead of the wrong culture, and I hate the culture and cancer and all that kind of talk, but winning games makes people feel good. Losing games makes them feel bad. I don't think that's shedding any light on anything new here, but if you're continually losing, it's hard to go to your job every day. So I think for the morale of the guys that are here and are going to remain here, you want to start going in the right direction. like I said earlier, I mean, I don't think it's realistic. I don't see the probability at all being in our favor. I think Reed Wilkins talked about it before the New York Islander game, that the chances of us making the playoffs was like 1.3 something percent. It's probably about the same now that we've played 2 games and won them both, because we haven't really gained any ground because the people we're trying to catch are, you know, doing okay. So 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, kind of that's going to be the way this race is going to go. I mean, really, if they want to get in, I think it was something like 17-6-4 they needed to go. And now I think it's probably 15-6-4. So the odds are getting a little bit better, I guess, in that respect, because we've got our 2 wins, but still, it's a steep hill to climb.
Yeah, I think 92 points is kind of the projected spot. So, whether it's, however you take it, there's a possibility for 42 points, which in the games left. So that's if they were to close out the season on the best win streak of that you could ever imagine, they'd finish at 100 points. So they've got really sort of 8 points that they can, I think, give up during that last 21 stretch. And even then, right, that's to say that 92 is the cutoff. Some of these teams are, very capable themselves of going on a bit of a stretch, and, it's going to be a tough one. But it's evenly split. It's 10 home, 11 away on that, and 12 of those games against Western Conference teams. So, yeah, we're. I think, though, that Fake Canadian again says they should be in Cavs tank mode. We've been in that mode now for a long time, though. But, yeah. I'm kind of, I think we just, get rebuild out of your head, for one. There's a fellow on Twitter that is quite active and comments quite a bit, and I respect him for it. But he's got Rebuild 4.0 as his new handle. Joseph K90 Twitter. I just, to me, it just drives me a little bit insane, because, I don't think we're there, right? Like, we're capable of playing against the team itself is, we lack some of the horses that, some of the other teams have, sure. But we're, everybody's like a heater away from being a good team. And I talk about, that stench of losing. I believe that. Confidence goes so far in, a team's ability to win games, right? And you start getting in there, and you're confident. And, pardon me, you get, I look, and I'm sighing because I'm talking again about the Flames. But the thing is, the Flames, if you look at the last few seasons, they've had more come from behind wins in the third period than just about any team, right? And that, to me, is not about talent level. Because if you look at in all of those seasons, you look at the Oilers' record against the Flames, we're pretty damn good when we're playing the Flames, right? What coming from behind in the third period is, it's about a confidence and a thought process, and it's sports psychology. It's all of those things. It's about believing that you can do it every night, and you get yourself going. I don't remember. Well, no, I do remember. When I play, I play a ton of hockey, and the best hockey games that I have typically happen when somebody slashes me in the first period, or somebody does something to me in the first period, and I play pissed off and I play mad, right? And it's in there's been times, and I can think of a game, a couple weeks ago where, there was a non-call against me that, really pissed me off. And I went to the bench and I was fuming. And one of the guys tried to talk me out of it. And I just told him to shut up because I wanted to be mad, right? I wanted to be mad. I wanted to play mad because I know that's how I play my best hockey. This team, and we'll go back to the Simpsons comments on Oilers Now a couple days ago, needs to work hard every night. But I think that confidence, they need this confidence. They need to know that they can win games. They need Connor to be, they need to have Connor believing that, right? That, he's going to take the game and put it on his shoulders every night. I think you look at, and Connor can do that, right? Connor's ability to take a game in his own hands is there. I don't think that he necessarily does that, though, today, the way that, say, Sidney Crosby does. I mean, if you've watched probably enough Crosby games to know that when Crosby decides that he's, willing to take the team under his wing and win a game, he does exactly that. Now, Connor can do that. There's no doubt. But I think he's still, that part of his game is still in the learning stages, right? He's still a kid, right? Like, he's still young. We forget just how young Connor McDavid is. But part of that is he's not really lived through that on this Oilers team yet. It took Crosby a couple of years to learn that. It took Lemieux was 5 years before he was in the playoffs, right? The greats, it takes a little bit of time before they get that mindset. And, that's why I want to see this team finish out strong. I think that a little bit of make the Oil great again, a little bit of, mindset. And Braley says, headspace. That's how they're gonna get out of this where they're at, right? We just need, I don't know what it is, but we need the team somehow to kind of catch that, winning attitude and start to believe that they can be in every single game. We're fragile, right? You start losing a couple games, the team the last, I'd say 5 or 6 games, they're starting to get that mindset. They look like a different team. Hitch talked about it in his post-game presser. He said, I know when the team is doing well, right? Basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but he, when they're losing games that they should have won, right? And he said, up until now, whenever they lost games, it's because they should have lost them. They played like crap, right? They played shitty, right? But now they're starting to lose games that they should have won. And that means they're playing well every game. And I think that's great. It's about time. And, maybe if anything, that's the only reason, if you don't like Hitch, that's the one reason you might consider keeping him, is some consistency and keep that headspace, right? Maybe Hitch is the right guy for that. I don't know. Your thoughts there?
Yeah,
Make the
I
Oil,
think we touched.
make the Oil Greer again. First, I need to comment on that because a little play on words there. Bringing back the old Oilers there. Make the Oil Greer again. We should find out where Greer is now and get him back on the team. Anyway, okay. Sorry, you go ahead. What's your thoughts?
I kind of think on the coaching front, I think you have to start thinking about some continuity. For some of these guys, you're bringing in too many different coaches. But listening to Overtime Open Line, I think it was probably about a week or a week and a half ago, Reed and Rob were pretty adamant that Hitch is not going to be here next year. It will be somebody else. And we talked about this last time, but anytime you bring in a new GM, they usually have somebody in mind that they want to be the head coach. So I like the fact that we've got a coach now, and it's been forever since we've had a coach with a Stanley Cup on his resume.
So I think that's a moving target, by the way, the whole Hitch thing. Like, if I'm Hitch and this team's not going anywhere, right? And the GM comes in that, or the team continues to make the same mistake over and over and over again, or the guys in the room just don't seem to get it, then yeah, I'm not coming back. I'm too old for this shit, right? You know what I mean? Right? Like Hitch he's got nothing left to prove, right? Like he's won a cup, guys know he's good. In fact, why be your legacy being a team that, of, misfits, right? But if the team's doing well, like they're doing now, and Hitch sees something that's great in them, then yeah, I think he wants to stick around. I think it's a moving target. I don't necessarily think that Hitch has made that decision yet. And I think that the same goes for, a new GM. If a GM comes in, they'll have their own ideas, right, as to whether or not Hitch stays or goes. And some of that will probably be, frankly, by the way, I had no idea Greer was with the Devils now. Anyway, but I think a new GM comes in and probably sits down with, Connor McDavid, right? Sits down with Leon Draisaitl and gets their input, right? And they probably don't, make, a rash decision on the coach until they've got everybody's input and understanding, right? I mean, if the players love him, you're not going to let him go, right? That's my feeling. I don't buy into it. I don't think the decision's been made. Maybe it has. I don't know. I feel like
think so.
Yeah, I feel like there's a possibility, but it all depends on how the rest of the season goes, right? And so much rides on the new GM, whoever that ends up being. I contend still. I hope it's not Keith Gretzky. Like the guy. Would love if they kept him on as an assistant. But let's get somebody, new and bring them to the organization. Let's ask those of you on Twitter, Glenn Ma, Braley, Sam from the UK, Sam, fake Canadian from Tampa. We've got pretty much a worldly mix of people on Periscope right now. Some people on Facebook, but let's get the Periscope feed. Your thoughts on, GM? Where would you go? Would you take Keith Gretzky? Would you move him out? Would you keep him and get another new GM? And I think it's up to the GM whether they keep him or not. By the way, Mike, I'm looking at your new set there at Cell Block 99, and reminds me, Oilerslive Cup round 2 is in Calgary at Max Bell Arena, the day of the Battle of Alberta. And so if you want to come out and play, or you want to come and be a fan, do all of those things, it's open to Oilers fans, and hopefully, no Flames fans sneak in, but I can't guarantee it. And come out and play some hockey. I'm gonna pick a charity here right away. I think it's about 43 days until that happens. So to Mike's left, if you're watching on the screen, is the Oilerslive, which I'm wearing tonight, actually, is the Oilerslive jersey. There's a heavy hockey jersey as well. And then the other thing I want to point out is that hockey bag doesn't look like it's been used enough, by the way.
There's a little bit of paint off the one end, but you can't really see it. So
that's the side.
The stick has a couple of puck marks there.
There you go. All right. Okay. We'll give you the credit there. CCM, what kind of? I think the people watching want to know what kind of curve you're using there.
Yeah.
We saw that wicked line A type of shot.
Not for me, you didn't.
Yeah, no, they don't know that.
Yeah. Not showing up.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. 65 flex. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. All right. So, yeah, just a little plug for the Oilers Live Cup. Send me a message on Twitter. Oh, there you go, McDavid. McDavid. Here's something we haven't talked about. Well, we did talk about it last episode. Glenn Mott, by the way, says GM that has experience and connections. Totally 100% agree. Should play hair metal in the background. We got to play, we should be playing a little bit of music. Can you hear that, by the way?
I don't hear music on your end.
I think they can hear it on the feed. I don't know. We'll have to see.
You need to play a song for me, Mike.
All right. Can you hear that, fake Canadian? That one's for you. I'll probably get my copyright removed, or copy. They'll probably remove me from YouTube for this. I'm playing Go For a Soda, by the way. I'm surprised you can't hear it.
I want a request.
All right, well, I'll do requests later. Let's cancel the music here. All right, we're having a little bit of fun. It is Saturday night. Oilers just beat the Anaheim Ducks. A couple things we're talking about, of course, are what's going to happen at the trade deadline, new GM, lots to talk about with the Oilers. Finally, something positive. I've done now, 2 of these episodes in the last couple days because we're winning games. It looks like things are going the right way. Fake Canadian says Kim Mitchell would be happy his music's played anywhere. That was for Cell Block 99, by the way. We also talked a little bit about Perry's hit on Nurse at the end of the game and the potential for a hearing. The more I think about this, the more my curiosity lands in how do we know as fans if George Peros, if there is no hearing, how do we know George Peros didn't say, hey, my buddy's, maybe up for a suspension, I'm just going to look the other way. I don't think we could know that he steps aside from that, right? That he's, objectively looking at this and actually looking at the crime versus, hey, my buddy Corey just texted me and he wants to go fishing in the summer, right? We can't know. We can't know. The only way we could say that he's truly not showing favoritism in the league now would be maybe let's put our own Western hockey agenda out there. The only way that there'd be any consistency with player safety is if Perry gets let's go for 3 games, right? Let's say 3 games. Let's see if maybe TSN or Sportsnet picks that up and runs with that. As not showing favoritism in this league. Doubtful, and doubtful that I would actually be very surprised if Corey Perry gets a hearing. You? What do you think? There was no penalty called, obviously. Thoughts on it? Did I lose you? Oh, you're frozen. This is... I got you at the perfect stare too. So for those of you listening in right now,
I kind of think.
Oh, there we go.
I kind of think that it doesn't meet their criteria.
Oh no, all right, fair enough. You're probably right there too, right? There's a definite intent to injure though.
I kind of think it doesn't meet their criteria. They don't think it's bad enough.
All right. Well, I guess we'll find out soon enough, and we'll see if
Nurse is injured.
Pardon me.
Is Nurse injured on that?
Nurse was not injured, but neither was Letty, right?
Right.
Glenn,
I just don't think a forearm shift
Mike
for them
has died.
qualifies.
You're still. Wait, I can hear you now, but for a minute there, you had this death stare on you. It froze at maybe the perfect moment. This is if you're listening on the podcast, we're streaming live right now, post game on Twitter, Twitch, and a number of different locations. And also, if you're listening on the Simple Radio app or from the website, there's the odd time where Mike just kind of has this hollow stare at me, and quite often I'm not 100% sure if it's because I've said something stupid, or if it's just because the internet feed is going half-ass. But glad to hear you heard most of that. And anyway, so you don't think it meets their criteria? You don't think there's going to be even a call on that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I didn't think McDavid was going to get suspended either. So who the fuck knows?
Yeah, no kidding. Let's see if we can find. Can we find a video on this? I wonder. It's got to be. The great thing about the internet is it all comes up pretty quick, but nothing yet. Maybe there's something on Twitter.
Video on the play.
Yeah. I mean, they had it a good angle of it in the game itself. And of course, all right, so it's definitely on Reddit. We got it there. All right, we're going to move this over here. And sorry for a second, Mike, you are out of the picture, and I'm playing for everybody. Here we go. Ooh. Do you see that? Let's check that out again. So Perry comes in. Oh, that's like an elbow to the head.
Yes. Forearm shiver.
Okay, we're going to play that just one more time for everybody that's watching. Oh, man. It gets worse every time I see it. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Typical Anaheim Duck bullshit.
Yeah. All right, so there you have it. I'm calling for at least 2 games, and at the very least a hearing. Trump would disapprove of the Wi-Fi shitty communist internet feed in Canada. Man, the Periscope feed is awfully political tonight. Oh, man, yeah. All right. We're about 2 minutes to 1 a.m. here, Mountain. Let's wrap it up. What's your any last words tonight?
Yeah, I don't think Perry even gets a phone call. I think player safety is focused on hits to the head, but other abuses and shit that goes on during the game, hits from behind, predatory hits from behind, stalking players, stick infractions, like we saw tonight with Perry on Nurse, the boom, right, the chicken wing right to the jaw. I don't think they really care about it as much. To me, that's the part that I have trouble stomaching. If you're going to start cracking down on hits to the head and and give first-time offenders 2-game suspensions, but you're going to let all the other shit and antics and crap that goes on during the course of a game go unchecked, do you really care about player safety, or do you just care about things that are mandated in your little book, and that's how you're going to police the game? to me, there's so many shortcomings now in officiating and player safety. The whole thing needs to be overhauled.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Any last thoughts on the Oilers as we go Nashville? We're in Nashville, what, Tuesday?
I think it's Monday night.
Monday night. You're right.
And I think it was good that I think it was good that they picked up a win tonight. Against a team right in your Pacific Division. If you're trying to claw your way into this, that's a good way to do it. And winning, the first game of Connor's suspension kind of sends a little bit of an FU to the league, saying, well, we're going to do this anyway. And I think it was good for them to get that one under their belt. Probably felt pretty good in the room to say, yes, we can do this without our captain.
Absolutely.
Let's do one more, and then we get him back.
Absolutely. Okay, one last thing here. I'm going to just hold on. I gotta look for something for those of you listening on the podcast. I'm later at the whichever. I apologize in advance for all of the video that I'm showing that you don't get to see. Although you could go to YouTube and watch it there. You could watch the stream and just kind of fast forward through to the end, and you'll see some of the video. I am posting. I've got on there now. Connor McDavid eating popcorn. so this is somebody, Kennedy's Trash, put up the GIF, and there he was today, sitting there eating popcorn. Honestly, I did not know the guy did regular people things. Go figure. So there he is, Connor McDavid out in the wild, eating popcorn, enjoying the show. Hope you enjoyed that today. All right, my final thoughts. We've talked about a lot tonight. Again, great game by the Oilers. I thought they played a good team game tonight. There were moments that they were hemmed in their zone, and I thought they came out a little bit flat. First, it took them maybe 10 minutes before they got a shot on goal. But you know what? They played, I thought, pretty decent defensively. And I just, my feeling on it is I'd like to see the Oilers continue down this path, whether or not, it's a draft lottery or not. I want them to, start winning hockey games and be fun to watch again, and all of those great things that we hope for when you're a fan of a team. And frankly, I'm also a little bit tired of being chirped by friends of mine that aren't Oilers fans. It's pretty much a daily thing when you run a podcast that people will, chirp you if your team's doing as poorly as our team is doing. So that's one thing. The McDavid thing, I go back to, I really think there was an Eastern agenda here on this one, and it drives me nuts that people, that the league is getting away with this. There's no consistency here. Stop spouting that there's consistency in this call, that it shows there's no favoritism, because we already knew, as Oilers fans, we knew there was no favoritism in this league when it came to Connor McDavid. They just don't call shit against him. So that's my thought there. And the other thing I'm gonna just say before we go offline, and Mike, I'll legitimately let you get the last word tonight. I'll be out in Toronto next week. I'm there next weekend. I'm in Vancouver this weekend, Toronto next weekend. Reach out to me, or not. I'm in Vancouver this week, and then I'm in Toronto Friday through back on Tuesday. And I'm planning on going out to the Buffalo game, where Edmonton plays Buffalo on March, I think it's the 3rd. And so if you are going to be, if you're listening now or you're, listening on the podcast later, if you're going to be in Buffalo on March 4th, please send me a direct message. Would love to know if you're out there, and maybe we could get together and chat some Oilers hockey. Would love to meet some Oilers fans, wherever. And I'll be in Toronto over the weekend, so I'll be watching that. I'm going to be watching the Oilers Blue Jackets game on the 2nd at Real Sports. I've already reserved a table at the Real Sports Lounge in Toronto to watch the Oilers Blue Jackets game. So I'll be watching that. So anyway, that's all I've got for tonight, Mike. I'm going to pass it off to you, and then I'm going to put the end screen up, and I'll say good night, everybody. As always, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. YouTube would be great if you could subscribe at YouTube. I'm sitting at 50 followers on YouTube, which is quite awful. And I need 100 before I can change the name of my YouTube channel. So, all right, Mike, your turn. You go, finish us off, and then take us home. Of course, you got that look on your face again, which means that the internet connection is down for Mr. Megathread Mike Dursta. So maybe he doesn't get the last word tonight. He's got just wait. I'm getting a little bit of video here. Are you there, Mike?
I'm still here, buddy.
All right, there you go. All right. Okay, you get the last word tonight. And go now. This is it. Absolute last words.
Well, go Oilers, go in Nashville. It would be just fabulous if they could waltz into Nashville on Monday night and come out with another 2 points there. I'm pulling for them to win games down the stretch. I don't want to see them. I'm just mail it in. Go for it. Why not? And at the same time, you make the deals you can to improve the team. Do what you can. Pull hard. If you make the playoffs, you make the playoffs. If you don't, you don't. A high draft round pick for next year would be great. But so wouldn't a playoff berth. So I'm kind of on the fence. Do what you can. Thanks everybody for watching and tuning in. And Mr. Bear's got a good thing going here, and it's kind of funny that when I went to high school, my best friend was named Joey Hebert. So I'm not sure if they're related, but he was kind of a Frenchie too. So good night. Keep your sticks on the ice and keep reaching for the stars.